So, for believing the chart in this, it's time to be sneered at by a big important dude.
So,
in the course of my research...
Bro, this is your chart? Ooh, gross. This is the real one.
Yeah. In the course of my research on the works of the first ones, a living soul from Azeroth, who purported to be a scholar of some renown, showed me a tome containing an elaborately painted illustration she claimed to be an accurate representation of how the cosmic powers related to one another. This is actually a canonical book in universe, basically. This is like an actual history in WoW.
Wow, but how do you have it in your hand
written
in the game?
Yeah, I know, right? I went in and got it. I must say, despite the extensive training I completed in order to interact favorably with the mortal races, it was all I could do to muffle my derisive laughter. Instead, I patiently asked questions about the origins of this so-called cosmology as if I were hanging on every rambling word from the scholar's lips. When I learnt that this woeful miscalculation of a chart had been passed down through the hands of her world's Titan-forged races, it told me all I needed to know about the absurdity of the tome to which she clung so jealously. So it was the tome, not the map. This is the tome. So basically, he's having a big laugh at Chronicle, this broker character. Why, every word within was chosen so as to look favorably upon the Titans, as if the Pantheon of Order were the architects of a flawless cosmos. How typical of their kind to claim credit for that which they did not build but inherited. As has been well documented, the language of the Titans uses the same word for created as it does for ordered. Such blatant hubris. That's the Titans. I considered briefly sharing with this self-styled scholar our own cosmology, painstakingly researched by the finest minds of our combined cartels, designed to impartially relate the foundational truths of the cosmos. In the end, I realized the mortal would fail to grasp its subtleties, so rather than waste further effort, I thanked her for sharing her wisdom and sent her on her way. In the interest of completeness, I have included our correct cosmology map for reference. So there you go. This, written by Titan dickheads. Total bullshit.
So, I believe it is time to play a game of Spot the Difference.
Yes, it is.
What's the difference between these pictures? I mean, someone's already cheated and... I'd say cheated. Someone's already jumped the gun in chat by being... That's not what I wanted. Is that the Tazavesh mount?
Yes.
Yes.
Turns out you're literally riding around in order. But yeah, that like legit is the Tazavesh mount, that like cogwheel of order. So there's that. There's also, there's a lot of things to look into here. So there's the Ouroboros of death. Also, you see the Ouroboros there.
Yep.
Around death. And if you go down to life, you also see it there.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Wait, hang on. Oh, yeah, it's a skeleton here.
Yeah. So.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Life gives way to death, and death gives way to life.
Yeah.
Cycle.
Yeah. So cycle, and the whole thing here, is basically that the Titans viewed everything from their own perspective, so they oriented their chart as, you know, I guess, light and void, because they're aware of the void threat, and like, you know, order disorder, because that's like the kind of way they saw it.
Well, I mean, the creation myth according to them is light clashed with void and created all this.
Yeah, and that
is not represented here in any capacity.
Yeah, what it actually is here is that you have life and death, which basically all feed into this great cycle. Now, you see if you zoom really far in to the great cycle.
Zoom that far.
Okay, so basically, take it my word, that's the Eastern Kingdoms.
He's wrecked it.
He's destroyed it.
Oh, whoa, hello.
What is going on here? Maybe just open it in a new tab. Yeah, so click off it. That's fine, yeah. So there's a great cycle, and you can see there, that's Eastern Kingdoms. See, like, there's, you know, where...
Yeah, this is Azeroth, because that's Eastern Kingdoms, the shape of it.
So this is very much...
Here's Kalimdor with there's Ashara.
Yeah, so this is very much saying, like, hey, it's all centered around Azeroth. And my personal view of this is... So their whole thing is you've got these like primal forces, which then, you know, kind of like, you know, imagine fractal style, like imagine a Mandelbrot sequence where it's like as you go into the fractal thing, you see more and more and more emergent detail. Basically, it's like we all start from one thing, and then we go further in. What do we have come from as we sort of go into this? The 6 cosmic forces, with life and death being the ones they place as being the most important. Yeah. And then if you go one level further in, you get to what we would call the material plane, which is what they basically sort of call the Great Cycle. And you see, decay, spirit, fire, earth, air, water. All these elements. So the way I see it is these elements are basically the constituent parts of the material plane, and it's all centered around the Great Cycle. Who knows? I mean, there are interesting things like Azeroth, the World Soul, consumed all of spirit. All of the elemental force of spirit around her, which is why, because spirit would basically balance out the other elementals. That's why the elemental lords of Azeroth are completely off their rocker.
Yeah, that's why these 4 went mental and fought like crazy, even though... Well, it's weird because Decay taking apart here is kind of interesting because we have Death Elementals, but they don't play anywhere near as much a purpose. Which is kind of awkward overall because Death Elementals are like a sort of thing, but not super. Spirit Elementals didn't exist at all.
Well, Spirit Elementals didn't exist because Azeroth sucked them all up.
Yeah.
Long ago. And the Death ones we actually have kind of seen.
A little bit, but...
The Guardian before Frostmourne.
The Revenants, you mean?
Yeah.
But then they weren't Death Elementals, they were...
They were technically undead, I believe, in their categorization.
Yeah, but they were like undead versions of Ice Elementals, I believe.
That's basically been left as a mystery.
Yeah.
For ages, so I wonder if that will crop up. But yeah, that's basically it. And actually what's nice is Dakor's given us some brilliant side-by-side images as we move down this document. That'll really help us just punch into some of these things, as we kind of see how the bits are differently represented in the lore. So as we compare these, the reality bit is just called the Great Cycle. And notice, the Titans, Undead, Burning Legion, Wild Gods, they don't even factor in.
No, there's no representations in text form.
Yeah, so basically it's putting all of this material plane stuff as being in the middle, perhaps the byproduct of this big cosmic cycle, right?
Yep.
As you move down to death, then, it goes death, necromantic, undead. Just here, death, decay. This is just a different representation of things. Of course, we've got additional elements like the Ouroboros. The little icon there, which of course is the icon you'll see plastered all over Ouroboros. Yeah. Then of course you got the big snake eating itself. If you look into life, again, for life we see a big tree. Big tree in the new one. It goes into spirit. Whereas here it's life, nature, wild gods. Now your thing there is you see the crescent moon?
Yeah.
The crescent moon is of Elune. Is of a loon, and
is it of a loon?
I kind of read it as a loon.
It's a moon. Obviously they're gonna read that way.
Yeah, I see. I thought there was another little bit of a loon where she was also in death. Yeah, look at death. Look at the actual text of death. You have the crescent moon.
Yeah.
Well, you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's there in death.
Yeah.
And then it's also there in life. And is that maybe suggesting, is that hinting?
Is it there truly mirrored, or is it just there?
I saw us.
That one? Yeah, it's weird because that's not symmetrical in any capacity. You would imagine if that was symmetrical, where that text is death, life would have Elune. I guess it's not symmetrical.
Opposite sides though, there is a crescent moon shape, so I'm just wondering if that is teasing that connection, because that's also been teased in game and by the rest of this book. So we got that. As you move on to order, then the new order is interesting because
significantly less related to the stars in the cosmos.
Yeah, it's saying, "Yo, Titans, sit down." Why is that moved to the left?
Because zooming and Notion kind of fiddles with it a wee bit.
Yeah, so this is pretty much saying that order is a bit more first onesie progenitor stuff. And I guess just kind of hey, Titans are new. The Titans are new. They're not that important. They go around ordering things, and their name for order is also what they use for create, right? Where I think the key distinction that these brokers would want to make here is that order, to the right, is probably the first ones actually building out how the universe works, whereas the Titans, you know, they're not creating things. You know, they're just ordering things that are already there, that are the creations of the first ones. Yeah. Which does make you then wonder, are the Titans basically, you know, do the Titans actually agree with Zoval and don't like the first ones? That's why they never talk about them? I mean, who knows?
Maybe they put the first ones in a little ordered box and not thinking about them again.
Yeah, and you know, as you look to light, there's a few small differences, nothing.
Yeah,
super
the
major,
only thing that sparks me as interesting is that the intersection of the life part of the life part of the death cycle coming to an end before it becomes skeletal. No, wait, no. No, that's the skeleton part. Am I blind as fuck? Yeah, it's the skeletal part of it.
Yeah, it goes through light.
So the final stages of life are
going through light.
Yeah, are intersecting with that, which I don't really want to read too far into, because the same can be said for Disorder for the good part.
I can tell you're thrilled by this book.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it is mostly just information overload. Where I'm just none of this feels like it means a whole pile to me, because I haven't got answers from the original cosmology chart. So I'm like inherently reluctant to reading super deep into some parts of this, just because it's like I don't know how much trust I'd put in it being accurate, in terms of like, I'd love to sit here for days and be like, well, what is this thing going around Disorder that's interlinking with light? Why is light interlinking with Fel on the opposite side of Shadow, when these are obviously not opposites, these are inherently linked? Whereas these are not directly linked here, but they are directly linked with the Naru are concerned.
Yeah.
And where Anduin's plotline was genuinely concerned. Whereas at least, you know, here in the original there was the whole backdrop that linked the two of them and implied, which means to me it feels like the creation myth we've been told it was a load of shite. And then,
well, that is literally the point of this book. It's just the Titan perspective.
Yeah, so it's like, does that mean there's, you know, is Sargeras going to come back and say, here we've got, you know, here's my version of it?
Yeah, well, this is just the broker and sort of Death's perspective and things, I guess.
Yeah.
As we look at the corners, then Decor does have some anything to look into
analysis. Let's take a look and see.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah, I kind of like the touch where the shadow is very similar graphic to the Star Augur planet that was eaten by Void. I like that touch.
Yeah, so that's really that, and it's the sort of thing where you know the lore is kind of I don't mean like all over the place, but it's just shifting and changing so much that it's like, you know.
It's the first.
We don't have enough to understand it yet.
The first cosmology chart had me very, very brimming with possibility based on framing everything that I already know. But now they've done it again, I'm kind of thinking, well, there's not a whole lot of point in me putting a lot of stock into analyzing it, because, like I said, we don't know enough about the original cosmology. So it's like, I see if they're going to throw, a big handful of dust that's information into my eyes and expect me to like pick out through for information, I'm significantly less interested this time around, and I'm more likely to keep to more grounded things in terms of more specific ways, like more specific things like a loon, rather than do what I did with the original. I feel like I'd be wasting my time looking into the minutiae of this, which is really sad, because I'm sure the person who illustrated and spoke with the lore, like the narrative dev team, did an insane amount of work. Like the little touch where that looks to me like the Fel Reaver.
Oh, it is a Fel Reaver, yeah.
Which is, that to me comes across like a creation made for the purpose of destruction, rather than a creation made for the purpose of creation, which is what the ordering does. Although they don't create, they order. So it's like it's the destruction versus shaping kind of stuff. All the touches are nice. Also, the little graphic is kind of nice as well there. But what is the crack of the corners? Is there anything? There's a triangle. There's a black hole thing. There's the sun crest from Dark Souls, and there's a flower. So
yeah. Like for me, it's like I do feel similar to you. Like this was like new and codifying things we'd already sort of knew and experienced. Whereas this is like, hey, here's a new perspective and all of that stuff. But I feel like the story hasn't went far enough to us for us to truly know what's going on here. Unless there's a lot more in the Grimoire of the Shadowlands for us to read, because we only have little snippets, because the global distribution of this book has been really funky.
It certainly has. So light and shadow are linked. There's an overlap in the middle here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I guess that goes through shadow and then light. So there is connections. They're just very opposite.
Yeah.
Very opposite.
May soon be time for me to get a coffee.
Doing the old Waluigi impression for no good reason.
Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah, I think it's probably time for me to go grab a coffee because I'm a sleepy boy. That's what happens when you do Allcraft and it's quite late and then you're, big thinking. You're big thinking and then you're all hyped up and then you're like, it's hard to sleep and stuff.
Yeah, out of the old big thinking. But
yeah.
no, it's like I maybe feel, I don't know how much of my perception of this is tainted by how I actually feel kind of pissed off about this broker being such a smarmy bellend.
He's a bit of a
That's
twat,
what it's like,
isn't he,
well,
the
look at
broker?
this chart. This chart's so fucking correct, you bastard. Like, go away.
Yeah.
Go away. I don't care if your chart's right. But I think I might just be a very Northern Irish thing.
Could be.
I'm just like, I don't care if you're right, but your attitude was wrong, so no. No, get away.
That is typically how I think we operate over here. But yeah, it's just that thing. We don't know enough. We just don't know enough right now to fully dive into this. I think this is intended to be something that, we experience right now as a curiosity.
Yeah.
But that as we go forward in the new content, or, especially say the content, the new content of like a 9.2, we kind of have some gaps filled in. And there's a bit of me that wonders, Bazinga, I've got it.
Bazingo.
Okay. What if this was meant to come out after the final chapter of the Covenant campaign of patch 9.1? But because patch 9.1 ended up coming out a little bit too late, this has came out before we've seen all of the 9.1 content, because the final chapter of the campaign, which maybe will have a cinematic, we don't know about yet. So there's a little bit of me that wonders. But overall, I think what we're going to go through here is that the Titans are like kind of hubristic assholes, and they're like super arrogant because they believe order is order. I mean, Algalon was a bit of an arrogant dickhead till we slapped him silly, and he decided maybe it's not time to wipe out this planet. So, the Titans via their automatons were totally willing to wipe the whole lot of us out of existence, right? So that does just leave you thinking, okay, well, in that case, Titans are maybe not super to be trusted, And there's times where Steve and some of the WoW people have basically said, like, yeah, if you are serving order as the Titans see it, they'll be your mate. Obviously, if not, they'll just, they'll tarmac over you.
Yeah, well,
and we're going to see more of that as time goes on. And I think they're setting it up so the next time we see the Titans and we see Sargeras, we're just going to be like, hey, Amanthul, so nice to have you back. By the way, you dickhead, we've learned all this dirty stuff about you. And, do some explaining. I think that's where they're going to go.
It would certainly be difficult to come back to the Titans after all of this without some very, very interesting, either a significant amount of time spent elsewhere or some significant gymnastics lore-wise for us to show up at the Seat of the Pantheons. Be like, well, boys, what's happening? Anything while we were gone? Amadul, God, you wouldn't believe where we've been. Oh yeah, Freya, what's the crack with the loot? You wanna let us in on that one? Cheers, thank you. Why do we not ask these questions when we met them for 5 minutes? Like, been well handy.
So I think there's a bunch going on with that. I'm gonna go get that coffee on the go. Do you want any coffee?
Nope.
Grand. In that case, I think if you go to all the rest, there is some good
it's
good stuff to do.
It's 9:15. I'm not having a coffee this time out. That would put me into the trash can, and I have a very busy day ahead of me tomorrow. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have to get up and play video games.